Now, the ever-changing weather patterns are quite a reminder of the challenges that are posed by climate change. A recent report by the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has warned of catastrophic effects should greenhouse gas emissions not be cut drastically by the year 2025. That's in 3 years' time. Well, let's speak to climate activist Happy Khambule, who's a commissioner in the Presidential Climate Change Coordinating Commissioner, on the steps South Africa needs to take now to mitigate these in a sustainable manner. Happy, good afternoon, and thank you very much for your time here on today on eNCA on this Good Friday. Just the other day, when the President himself was on the ground in KZN to assess the damage of the devastating floods, he mentioned that this is an effect of climate change, that South Africa can no longer approach climate change challenges the way it used to. We need to address them differently going forward. What should the country be focusing on now?
Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to everyone. I think it would be hard to not send condolences, as well as just to reflect that lives have been lost needlessly. We know that the country can and has set up early warning systems, and when those early warning systems aren't necessarily activated or really fully adhered to, these are the kinds of situations which we get, where the devastation and the intensity of a particular impact, or whether it's a natural or a once-off kind of climatic event, tends to be much worse. So I think what we need to be focusing on is to increase our resilience by making sure that the primary infrastructure in South Africa is quite up to standard, so that we can weather the storm. But then when we do have something as intense as what we just faced, the early warning mechanisms and the early warning alerts, the systems that are in place to actually warn people and to help people prepare for the worst, are actually in place.
So the early warning system is a vital part. In this case, it looks like it failed us.
Yeah, it looks like it failed us in a number of ways, and I would not want to give an absolute judgment on whether or not it failed absolutely. But I think what we are clearly seeing is that the areas which needed the information weren't getting it. So there's something there around implementation that is lacking. And then secondly is that we can see quite clearly due to I would guess a case of access to resources, that places which have the particular resources to build the right infrastructure actually came out much better than places that didn't have the kinds of resources that allowed them to be able to weather the storm. So you have one side total devastation, and on the other side you have devastation, yes, but less so than what could have been felt if there wasn't those necessary resilience.
Most of the extensive devastation damage has been done in informal settlements, for example. Many of them are built on literally on shaky ground by waterways, or where the land is not really a safe space. And we know that informal settlements in South Africa, the number is growing every year. I mean, every year surveys are showing us that we're having more and more such settlements. What do you think can be done there to mitigate? I mean, governments, besides your early warning systems, besides the good infrastructure, surely should also be investing in taking the people who are poor, who are mired in informal settlement lifestyles, to safer land spaces.
Yeah, and of course there will be sensitivities about people not wanting to move too far from economic centers, as well as building lives in areas that they want. But I think as much as we would be investing in people to remove them from areas which are not suitable for human habitation, we also have to invest in actual just basic education on not only the people who are allowing others to build on those lands, but also people who are also accessing those kinds of areas. I think, I mean, the kinds of devastation we're seeing is that families are being destroyed, how all material gain is lost, and at the same time people are going to go back in those same areas. So we have to find a way to actually stop that people aren't going in the same areas, and then at the same time educate people to say, if you build in the wrong areas, even if it's an informal settlement, when such a thing happens, it's literally going to destroy your life.
Yeah. Happy, you as a climate activist and climatologist and other scientists have been warning us for quite some time about the devastating effects of climate change. And now we're beginning to see more and more intense weather storms. I mean, just since the beginning of this year, between January and the beginning of April, Southern Africa has been hit by no less than 4 tropical cyclones, 2 of which hit the northern parts of Madagascar and making their way across the Mozambique Channel all the way to northern parts of Mozambique. And one of them, I think it was Cyclone Anna, ended up dumping a lot of water even in Malawi. And then we had 2 others that came to the southern parts of Madagascar. It looks like it's getting more and more intense. And when you look at the coastal areas, they will be bearing the brunt of such extreme weather into the future. Can we realistically mitigate against that? Are we able to build infrastructure that will withstand such extreme Mother Nature storms?
Well, we have to first realize that most of the intensity and the severity of these storms are caused by our activities, right? Not only is it because of our own greenhouse gas emissions, but also because of the fact that we're building in areas and encroaching in areas which we're not supposed to be, and that's the areas obviously on the other side of the country which are burning. So there's a couple of impacts that we are feeling. What we can do is we can build the resilience. We can't stop the already occurring events. What we can do is build resilience, make sure that we're adapting to the slow onset events, which are mostly like your droughts and the increasing precipitation. But these once-off really intense extreme weather events, those are the ones which show us how resilient we are. And that's where we need to be able to make sure that we've got the necessary disaster risk management systems, we've got the early warning systems, and we're able to save as many lives as possible and not have them needlessly lost. Because some of these things, as you also indicated in your question, is that some of them are way beyond what we are able to do, but there are things that we can do in order to save lives at least.
Yeah, and one of the first things in the short to medium term is improving our early warning systems, as you say, building more robust and durable infrastructure, and try and keep people and allow people to build in places where it is safe. Thank you very much for your time this hour here on Today on eNCA. Happy Khambule, a climate activist, just weighing in on what could be done by government, for example, to improve the response to climate change and its impact. Khambule, by the way, is also a member of the Presidential Climate Change Coordinating Commission.